Hey you guys, it's Britt. Today we're here to talk about a story that is coming out of Washington State regarding a podcaster and her husband who were the unfortunate victims of a stalker who found her online, became oddly obsessed, and decided to take things in his own hands, and it ended really badly. So I will place a trigger warning in the beginning. I'm not going to go into anything super graphic or detailed, but I do want to talk about this because I constantly talk about online safety, and especially when it comes to family vloggers like the Doherty Dozen, Ace Family, 8 Passengers, the LeBrant family, whoever you want to talk about. A lot of them don't take online safety seriously, and I want to talk about this situation and just have a discussion with you guys. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys. So first things first, I want to say when it comes to the topic of stalkers, I just recently mentioned in another video how I think that stalkers, it's a term that's thrown around a lot on YouTube. And I don't appreciate it. I know a lot of you guys feel the same way that I do. Stalking is such a serious thing that some people are plagued with. It's extremely scary, and to hear YouTubers run around and just say, oh, so and so is stalking me simply because they watch all of your videos and they know a lot about you, stuff that you have put out yourself. To call people stalkers, and especially if they don't like you, they really become a stalker then to a lot of these people. Most of the time when you're dealing with a stalker in real life, you don't come on to TikTok or YouTube or Instagram and rattle the stalker's cage. You work with authorities, you keep it offline, because this is a super, super scary situation. And unfortunately, with this couple, they did everything right. Based on the facts that have been laid out so far, they did everything right. And I feel horribly that this happened to them. Unfortunately, we are living in a time where people build these parasocial bonds with people that they listen to and watch, and you just never know who's on the other side of that phone or device listening to you. And there are some really unwell people that consume content online. And, it sucks because we should all be allowed to make content without people becoming obsessed and then hating you and then actually stalking you and doing all of this kind of stuff. We should all be allowed to just exist online, make our content, follow the rules, and go on with our day. It really sucks, this parasocial bond that people build and then decide to go off the rails and do something like what this guy did. So I want to start from the top, and I will link this article down below. It is on Forbes.com, and it starts out by saying a podcast host and her husband were found shot dead Friday in their Redmond, Washington home, allegedly by a man also found dead who had been stalking her for months, according to police who had also previously tried to serve a protection order against the suspect. And I have done a little bit of research into this. They had issues serving him because he was a long-haul trucker, so he didn't have a permanent address where he was home in the evenings where the police could just go to his residence and go ahead and serve him. He was a long-haul trucker, so tracking him down was a big task, and things went from serious to very serious to deadly all in just a couple of months. Really, really tragic set of circumstances. The suspect's name is Ramin. He's 38. He killed himself after apparently shooting dead the 33-year-old podcast host, Zohreh. And I'm not going to try to say her last name because I really don't want to butcher it. And her 35-year-old husband, Mohammed, according to the Redmond Police Chief Daryl Lowe. First responders did try to perform CPR on her husband after he was found inside the home with a gunshot wound, police said, though he was pronounced dead at the scene. So the podcast host had been contacted by the suspect last summer after he listened to her podcast, but the host eventually filed a no contact order against him after he contacted her more than 100 times in a single day and had threatened to show up at her home. She first contacted the police in December before she unsuccessfully tried to cut off contact with him and later called again in January after his actions intensified. Police say they tried to serve the protective order before the incident, though they had difficulties locating him, and like I said, that was because of his job. Lowe said the incident was the absolute worst outcome for a stalking case, adding it was every victim, every detective, every police chief's worst nightmare. 3.4 million, that's the estimated number of people the age of 16 or older who were victims of stalking in 2019, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, which noted that women were stalked more than twice as often as men. Of those, an estimated 67% said that they were fearful of being killed or physically harmed. That's what I'm saying. This is such a scary situation for anybody to go through, man or woman. But I've seen so many, especially over on TikTok, I've seen quite a few where it's like people want to say they have a stalker and then they want to rattle the cage of that stalker by making a bunch of videos and kind of upsetting things. And I don't know about you guys, but my common level of knowledge is that when you're dealing with somebody who is stalking you, you don't want to upset or infuriate them. And this woman did the right thing. She tried to cut off contact. It didn't work, so she worked with the authorities and filed the protective order. She wasn't making content out of it and making it a damn story time. I don't know. I just don't appreciate when people take things like this and try to turn it into some kind of clickbaity video series where it's like follow for part 2, follow for part 3. I don't appreciate it. It's really serious and it's extremely tragic, and it's something that a lot of people experience based on the numbers that I just shared with you guys. There's no reason why somebody should not be just allowed to make their content and move on. So the host of the podcast, it was aimed at Farsi-speaking programmers in the US. She was a software engineer who worked for the pro-monetary mortgage path after studying at the University of Washington, Tacoma, according to her LinkedIn. And her husband, Mohammed, they got married in 2011, and he had been working for Amazon since January of 2022, according to his own blog. So that's what's going on with this situation. I feel absolutely awful for them. You guys know that I don't really cover true crime. It's not my genre or my niche at all. I consume a lot of it. I don't talk about it very often, but with this story, I saw it. One of my friends sent it to me last night. I told her, I said, I have to make a video on this because it just kind of seems like when people talk about online safety, they're labeled as like, oh, why do you care? Fake outrage, blah, blah, blah. It's actually a really serious thing. And I know that sometimes situations can arise where it's like, well, that person was being safe and they did do all the things. And things like this can still happen. But then when I see YouTubers advertising where they live, like with Tara on TikTok, showing her apartment and right outside her front door, and then laughing at the fact that people were concerned after she said she had a stalker. You know, I obviously am labeled a content cop by a lot of people. All I can do is share my opinion on the things that I come across, and I think that there's this combination of people who kind of make a mockery of stalking and exaggerate it and outrage someone who could maybe be stalking them, or maybe it's just someone who is oddly, infatuated. But then you also have the other people who are non-believers and they think that it could never happen to them. But I'm just here to have a conversation about it. It's really shitty that people can't just exist and feel safe, but that's the world that we live in right now. And unfortunately, this story hit me hard, and I'm sure that it will shock a lot of you all as well. I just want to say too, before I close out this video, that I realize that I haven't personally been through a situation like this, so it's easy for some people to say, oh, well, you don't know what you would do, you don't know what you would say. What I can tell you with certainty is that I would not ever want to aggravate somebody who was harassing me or stalking me. I would never want to infuriate them or throw gasoline on a fire. I would want to keep things as hush hush as possible. And a lot of these people who are building these parasocial bonds, some of them do struggle with mental illness, and you just never know how you making a bunch of videos or kind of teasing them or rattling the cage, so to speak, could make them just, lose it and, do something that could have a very bad outcome. That's what I will say. I think that's going to be it for now. If you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.